I'm your host, Sarah Stephenson, and this is my co-host, Mike Stephenson.
Hi guys, how are you?
And I'd like to welcome back our few special guests, Will and Fletcher.
Yo, how is it? How's everyone?
Jason Wingate.
G'day.
And Curtis Harrison.
Hello, listeners.
And tonight we're reviewing that cult classic, Ghostbusters.
The original one, guys.
Yes.
Are you going to call?
Ghostbusters!
Dun, 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 dun,
Sorry,
dun.
I had to do that.
Somebody else.
Yes.
Yes. We have been literally singing the song all morning because Real and I were looking at it this morning. So
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, what better way to enjoy a podcast?
Hey, Ray Parker did a good tune, you must admit, hey?
yes,
Yeah.
Will
Or,
was
sorry,
actually
Ray
just
Parker
saying this
Jr.,
morning
there you go.
how catchy it was.
And
Yeah.
it was an afterthought, actually.
Well, it was
Yes,
played on
it
the
was.
radio a lot back in those days.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was an awesome
yeah.
jingle.
Got on the
Yeah.
top 40 and everything, it was great,
Yeah.
yeah.
So anyway, who stars and directs it, Mike?
Oh, well, lots of people involved in it, but I'll do a Reader's Digest version, shall I? Okay, directed by Ivan Reitman, written by Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis, and they both played in the movie. Now, I'll just go on something here. Budget was $30 million.
Wow. That's pretty expensive for a film back
However,
in the
drum
80s.
roll please. Box office, $296 million.
Wow.
Wow.
Oh.
Now
And
that's
it's-
what
and
you want to
it's
see,
still-
guys.
It's still going up, I bet.
Oh,
'cause it's
well,
such a
that's
popular movie.
only box office. That doesn't cover home media.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is that
That's not your VHSs and your DVDs and your torrents. Oh, sorry.
is that adjusted for inflation?
No, what? No,
No.
probably not. No. So on today, yeah, that's increased by another 20, 30, 40%.
Yeah. So who else stars in this
Well,
film?
we haven't got the stars yet. Now here we go. Now here we go. Bill Murray. Yay!
Yay.
King of comedy.
Yeah.
He nearly didn't go it. Someone else was going to do it before him. Can't remember now, but he wasn't the first choice.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Are you talking
I
about
wasn't aware of
Ernie?
No, Bill Murray.
Oh, right.
He wasn't the first. Okay.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay, I just can't remember. Someone else is going to do it.
So who else?
But he took it on. I just can't remember his name. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis. Were
Go
actually.
Dan.
Go
Go Dan.
Dan.
Go
Go
Dan.
Dan.
Well, it was Dan Aykroyd's idea, so he obviously put him himself in the movie.
Yes.
And Harold sort of said, "Well, I'm writing it, so
Yeah.
why not?" Sigourney Weaver. She had doubts
Yes.
about going out. Of course, she'd had a serious role on Alien. However, she did comic relief and stuff on
Yeah.
stage before this.
Yeah.
So they thought, "Hey, let's do a comedy."
Yeah, I mean, the last time we were all together, we were doing the franchise for Alien, weren't we, guys?
Yes,
we
that's
were.
actually interesting,
Are,
isn't
are
it?
you turning this into the Sigourney Weaver fan club hour?
And we won't go on Jonesy the cat, no. Now, Rick Moranis wasn't the first choice. I can't remember who the other guy was, but
Well,
he
that's the
couldn't.
name of the actor.
Who?
Yeah.
I just
Rick
remembered,
Moranis, yeah.
Rick
Rick
Yeah.
Moranis. He played a little weirdy guy. I don't think it was John Candy, but he couldn't understand.
That's right,
He
it was
couldn't.
John
He
Candy.
couldn't understand
Yes.
the role. The role.
Yeah.
So he said, "No, I don't know." So Rick Moranis said, "Oh, I understand the role," and he had
Yeah.
ad-libbed a lot of his lines. He just loved it. So
Yeah.
Rick's really good. And we had Ernie, obviously, and he had to go for auditions several times to get the role.
Oh, really?
And he did so good. Hey, why not?
And wasn't Eddie Murphy going to be
Yeah.
in his
Eddie
role?
Murphy
He was-
considered. I think Eddie Murphy would have been the
I can answer that
the
question.
Bill Murray role.
I can answer that. Yeah, he wanted the Bill Murray role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he got stuck with the that character role. But the reason why he turned it down was he instead chose to be star in Beverly Hills Cop.
Aha.
That came out in the
you
exact.
go.
Yeah.
That came out in the
Earlier,
exact same year.
Jason
Well, it was a
and
bad
Will
mistake,
and I were
wasn't it?
discussing why he left the project.
Yes.
You
So
know.
that seems to our question. Thank you, Carl.
Actually,
Curtis.
actually, I disagree with that. I think it was a great choice because at least the first film was great.
Yeah.
I just want to add something to that. Apparently, if you know the bit in the end when they come out of the hotel after
Yeah,
the
yeah,
whole
yeah,
showdown
yeah,
goes
yeah,
down,
yeah.
if you actually look in the shot when they're looking at the building,
Yeah.
apparently Eddie Murphy is still in that shot.
Wow.
Apparently,
Okay, right.
towards the end of the movie, they where they have the showdown with Gozer. There's a shot that still has Eddie Murphy in it,
Yeah.
and in the home video version, they cut it. They actually cut him out of the shot. They zoomed
Oh,
into
that's
the
a bit
shot.
rude, isn't
That
it?
explains why we didn't see Winston until,
Yeah.
much later on.
Well,
Yeah.
the role's meant to be a lot more beefier, but instead it was meant to be like acting as like the audience kind of thing, but instead he was just shoved in later on.
The original script had him as an Air Force guy, something or other, and just has to have a bigger part. And
Way more complex.
yeah, and then they decided to develop the Bill Murray part.
Yeah.
And make him more interesting with the Sigourney Weaver person. Why not? I would.
Yeah.
And poor old Winston Zeddemore role got chopped a little bit.
And here's another bit of interesting trivia while we're on that subject. Sigourney Weaver, you know how she gets turned into a dog towards the end of the film?
That was her idea.
Yeah, that was her idea, yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Apparently that was her idea. She gave, what was the director's name again? Ivan?
Ivan
Reitman.
Yeah, she gave him that idea
Yeah.
at her audition.
Wow, that was interesting.
Well,
insightful.
she'd done
Yeah.
that sort of stuff on stage. I was doing a dog on
What was
stage
there,
and things. And
What was their alternative
She's not really a dog,
idea
guys.
for
Yeah.
what would happen to her character? Did they say?
Apparently they didn't have any idea what to do with her character. Yeah, and it wasn't until Sigourney's audition that they decided, oh, that's a good idea. We'll turn her into a dog.
Well, they needed something to beef it up near the end, and that helped.
I would have
sure
thought
did,
that
yeah.
they would have had a plan, or at least a synopsis
Well,
of the actual story.
Well, the
like-
biggest reason behind that these issues was after they got given the green light for it, they only had 1 year to put it all together because they gave a release date of summer 1984.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, I heard something too. When they was given approval to go, they only had the synopsis. They didn't even have the full script written.
Yeah. And apparently a lot of the film was
Yes.
improvised as well.
Yeah, let's talk about the best improv moment, the piano tapping scene.
I
That was
disagree with
hilarious.
that. I think it's the Office where he's like, cats and dogs living together, mass hysteria.
Oh yeah, I love that. Yeah.
I like it when he says, when Venkman says, yes, this man has no dick.
Yeah.
That was the best improv.
Yeah.
I love it when
I like that guy.
Walter Peck
Yeah.
got his in on.
And
Yeah.
Oh, did you guys see at the end that Walter Peck in the last scene when the marshmallow man
Yes.
got
Yeah.
zapped?
He got a good dose of the.
Yeah.
Actually, it's quite funny. That was shaving foam they used.
yeah, I
We were
thought
wondering
so.
what that was.
Yeah, and you know what the problem is?
What?
It's really heavy.
Oh.
They originally they're going to dump a lot more stuff on it, and the stuntman actually got knocked over from the weight
Oh
of
my
it.
God, really?
So they had to lighten the load.
Wow.
So that was a lighten load they got.
Yeah.
It's
I
only
also-
70-something kilos.
Yes. So
Awesome.
I'll give you guys before we continue, and I'd like to tell the audience out there the plot to the story in case you
Yes.
haven't seen it. If you have already seen it and give it thumbs up,
Yep.
then that's good for you. But for other people out there, they may not have seen it.
Have
so
you not seen Ghostbusters?
Oh,
some people
damn.
haven't. Will.
Yeah.
Not
So-
the new Ghostbusters, not the 2006.
No.
I haven't seen that
Yeah,
version.
others
No.
may have seen that new version and think
Yeah.
that was great, but I won't bother to rewatch the original. So
Yeah.
I'll give you guys the snippets of the this one. So it's about these three professors who investigate ghosts and phenomena, and somehow they get fired from their positions at the university.
I wonder why.
Because they didn't believe in their theories because they're bizarre. So they decided to put together their own business where they hunt down ghosts and such. And their first client is named Dana Barrett. Her issue is a very big issue that kind of covers the whole story. That's kind
Yes.
and it gets really interesting, especially up to the end, where
Yes.
I wonder if they got any ideas from that from Exorcist and stuff. We actually floating off the
maybe.
bed.
Who knows? Maybe some of the stuff was taken from Exorcist a little bit here and there.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of
A bit of plagiarism here, guys.
a lot of films out there. Even one called Beyond the Door, which is a movie I was looking at last night. They kind of were the censor guys. They kind of sued them because of the Exorcist thing. So every time a movie out there that dealt with exorcisms and stuff, they kind of got
See, the
really
problem
angry
is,
at it.
exorcism is not a brand name or anything. It's just a
No.
word, so it's
Yeah.
really hard.
Yeah.
That's all. So that with names and stuff for copyright and everything, it's really, really hard to prove and disprove.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's really hard with names of things.
So what else do we like about this movie, guys?
I like the humor. I was going to bring up the belt scene where Dan Aykroyd's belt gets undone and he goes. I love that scene. And like it really did. It took a lot of risks.
Yeah, I did think it was interesting. That dream sequence was pretty funny.
Yeah,
it wasn't a dream sequence though. It was real. It actually happened to him. Anyway, one of my favorite bits in the film, is when, what's the clerk's name?
The what?
What was the clerk with the glasses? What was her name?
Oh, you're talking about Egon.
Not Egon.
No, I think she's referring to the secretary, Jean.
Jean, that's it.
Oh,
Jean.
right.
Yeah. Anyway, she's trying to talk to Peter, Bill Murray's character, about hiring more help.
Yeah.
Because he promised her that he would hire more help.
Yeah.
And I don't remember. Bill says something about, we don't have enough money or whatever. And then he walks off and goes. She goes, I could quit better jobs than this. Ghostbusters, what do you want?
Yeah.
Also,
on the phone.
Yeah, she says it on the phone. Yeah.
Also, one thing that we should talk about is just how good the special effects were for the time.
Yes.
I mean,
Oh, it comes and goes.
this
I think the
Well, there's no CGI back in those days.
zero
Yeah.
CGI. All that was all. How did they do that? Did they have to like draw over the film, like the same way they did with Back to the Future and like the lightning effects? Or...
most likely.
Probably.
Yeah, it's just the reason why I say it
Layering,
comes and
different
goes is because the Slimer is amazing.
Yes.
He's so well put together. However, the dog in the middle of the film, that turns into a bit of a cartoony thing.
Yeah.
It's actually stop motion. You can
Yeah.
tell it was stop motion. Yeah.
But wasn't well done though.
No.
But by today's standards, that is. But back
Yeah.
By
then,
today's
it was
standards.
revolutionary.
But another
Yeah.
point too, they had to build their company up. The guy who actually started the company for the special effects had recently left Industrial Light and Magic, and he started up his own business. And the other guys weren't available. He was the only kid on the block, so he had to put it all together. So yeah.
Yeah.
So a new adventure for him, hey guys? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
He did pretty good for the time.
Oh,
For the time.
yeah, great. That's what,
Yeah, I often think it's interesting when they did most of this all hands-on special effects stuff,
Yes.
especially the Mr. Steak Pop Marshmallow Man.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was
Will and
a
I
man
actually-
in a suit.
Oh, okay. I was just going to say, Will and I were actually discussing that. We're wondering how they did that.
And
it was a
I
man
thought
in a
he's really a
suit.
tall guy about so many stories high. And gee.
Yeah, so
cost $20,000 for that suit.
I actually thought he was animatronic.
No, they had a guy in a foam rubber suit,
Okay.
and they had about 20. I think
And that
about-
was obviously shot on a miniature set.
they did miniatures,
Yeah.
and then obviously when they layered it, obviously had when they came up the buildings, up Bill Murray and the guys up the building. Well, they've just layered and stuff. But yeah, it was a guy in the suit. They had 3 or 4 different masks for
Yeah.
the costume.
With
that
all the
said,
different-
yeah,
I'm
with
happy
all
and
the different
smiling.
expressions.
Now I'm evil. That sort of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like when
Yeah.
1 minute it's all smiley face.
Smiley face.
Yeah,
And,
and then-
the next minute he's like.
And they had something
Yeah.
like that. I think it was a dozen or
So
20,
this-
20 suits made up because the retakes where they had to burn the suit
Yeah. So
every
did,
time they did take.
so did the eyes actually move, or was that animated?
I think that was animated or done something. They were fixed eye. It was just a foam mask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm no costume expert, but you can like stitch together eyelids, so they would have had to make separate cuts.
Yeah, but
Right.
yeah, possibly. But there was
Yeah.
a man in the suit. There wasn't any room for anything. There was a foam suit over him, and he had a
It would-
reeving
It would have
apparatus in
taken
there and everything.
ages
and
and ages. It was all stop
Yeah.
motion. It would have taken ages to do that.
yeah, so
I don't
so
think it was stop motion.
you look at those things like the Crease and Black Lagoon and stuff. They had a guy in a suit.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
makes it so easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As we discussed,
drown over
most
here.
of this dialogue was all ad-libbed, so that meant they were made up all their dialogue in.
Well,
throughout
not
the
all of
script.
it. They had the basic.
Oh, yeah,
Sorry, carry on.
It made a lot more sense to me in the courtroom scene while the guy was like, "What?"
Yeah.
Yeah. Like in this scene here
They
with
do drift off script.
Peter Venkman when he mentions the time Egon tried to drill a hole in his head, and Egon replied, "That would have worked if you hadn't stopped me." Was actually that was an all ad-libbed scene, which was kind of funny.
Yeah, so it's a lot of.
Yeah.
But Rick Moranis,
Hey,
like I said, he went that party scene when Rick Moranis was entertaining his clients. That was all ad-lib.
True.
What's that? Sorry.
When Rick Moranis having his party in his house, his unit.
Oh, okay.
unit,
So that was all improvised.
That was all improvised. He just did it
Wow.
off the cuff. Rick Moranis
He
is a
did
good
really
actor.
roll with that.
Yeah, he just rolled it. He said,
Yeah.
I know this guy. Yeah, I got it in my
Yeah.
head. And he went there and blah, blah. Let's dance. Sorry, hang on. Someone's at the door.
I love that dance.
Yeah. There's also
He's a geek. He's so good at it.
And somehow Egon Ratman didn't lose control of his actors.
Yeah. Now,
Also,
Well, maybe
this-
just let them loose and you just capture the right moment.
yeah. Now this time I want to talk about the music side, like
Yes.
the Ghostbusters theme
Oh,
song
yes.
that we all know and love.
Are you gonna call?
Yeah, I like to say that the chorus shout out Ghostbuster line during the song theme. It came from the guy who sung it, Ray Parker's
Parker, yeah.
son, who came up with the
Okay.
line.
Okay.
He just said Ghostbusters, and that kind of came as a bit of a stuck-in line for his song.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, no. Apparently, he got the idea. For, the commercial that Dana was watching in that scene. That's where he got the idea for the
Oh,
song.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because apparently they approached Ray like very close towards the end of the shoot,
Yeah.
and they said, "We want you to come up with a song with the word Ghostbusters in it." And he went home scratching his head. Well, how can you sing Ghostbusters? Ghostbusters. It just doesn't work.
No.
But then he saw a cut of the movie, and he saw that commercial, and it's like, that makes sense. Who are you going to call? Ghostbusters. Who are you going to call? Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters.
That's how he came up with the song.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Just had the right verse and boom.
Thank
Yeah.
God that
Yeah,
happened.
and then
Yes.
It might not have been a hit if that didn't happen.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, just
Oh.
think that it came on by accident.
Yes.
Well, bugger. That shit happens. No.
But I did like when they did they did a remake of the song for the sequel to it. I mean the second movie.
They did?
Yeah, when they changed, they kept the when something strange called something. I don't know. I can't remember the song, obviously, but I did like it that they made a new theme song to Ghostbusters.
I was
in
not
the
aware of that.
sequel.
I have to watch it. Are you talking about the newer version
No,
or the
not
sequel?
the newer version. The
Ooh, terrible.
one
Yeah.
with that was a sequel after this.
So there's
movie.
Ghostbusters 2, but it's not well as received as this one.
The
So-
second movie
There's-
wasn't bad.
There's a
bad.
good reason for that too, and I'll let you speak first, Mike, then I'll get to that.
I was going to say that
Yeah.
the second movie wasn't as good as the first movie because I mean you get the first one's usually the magic,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
they said now where can we go from here,
yeah.
and that's where they lose it.
Now the reason
Yeah,
why
yeah.
the second one wasn't as good as the first
Yeah.
one is because it's not as dark as the first one. Like in the first one, you notice they're actually smoking cigarettes,
Yeah.
and in the second one, they're not. This is because between the first movie and the second movie, they actually did the animated series, The Real Ghostbusters,
For kiddies.
for kiddies, exactly. And they wanted to keep the
Ah.
sequel close to the cartoon,
Oh.
so that's why they didn't. That's why it wasn't as good as the first
now
one.
we-
Yeah.
There's also another reason on top of that. If you ever, a lot of people spend time on YouTube. One of the most popular channels out there is usually list channels, and usually
Watch Mojo.
WatchMojo.com.
I'm not allowed
yes.
to. Are we allowed to promote other YouTube channels? Anyway, I was trying to avoid speaking about those.
So it's here I'm going to go on down in a minute. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, list channels. And one of them is like most inappropriate PG-13 films, and this one makes it every time because of the smoking and
Yes.
when Ghost performing sexual acts
Yeah.
on one of the actors.
Speaking of sexual acts, anyone ever see Team America years ago?
Yes.
Yes.
I've heard of
That
it.
was a great.
But that never got. But that never got given PG.
No.
No.
That,
But then again,
That was
it
actually MA, so that
Yeah.
stays out of the conversation.
that was by the makers of South Park. So
It
yeah.
was, yes.
yeah.
It was,
Anyway, we're
that
going
was
off topic,
sick.
people.
That's right.
Yeah, off topic, guys. Time out. Yeah, so there's another thing I like to bring up. When the guy, what's his name, who played Egon?
Harold Ramis.
Yeah,
That's it. I keep forgetting
When he
the name,
passed away in year 2014, he'd passed away, just so you know.
Hey, he's a ghost now.
That's
Fans
true.
of the movie paid tribute to him by visiting the New York City firehouse, used in the extended shots, and they created a makeshift memorial featured Nestle Crunch bars, which
Nestle.
in,
Yeah,
refer-
Nestle, yeah.
in reference to they've been giving Egon a candy bar in one of the scenes,
That's right.
and Twinkies in referring to Egon using the Twinkies describe the ghost's power in New York City.
Actually, lucky it wasn't the Nutty Buddy Butter Bar. Okay,
I think it's a nice tribute when you think about it. Don't you guys agree?
Yeah,
I do.
If I
It's
won,
cute, but also missed opportunity. It should have been marshmallows because that would have been foreshadowing.
Exactly.
I know, but it referred back to the moment where Egon got a candy bar and that Twinkie bit.
You know what?
Yeah.
I
I mean,
could've-
the marshmallow thing, well, that could be referred to any one of the Ghostbusters.
You know
when
what?
you think about this.
In the first movie, they had this Marshmallow Man, and they had to
Yes.
blast him. Now, why didn't they just get quite a few 100 gallons of hot chocolate and just pour over him? It would have dissolved.
Dad, where are the? I mean, Mike, where is they going to get the chocolate sauce?
Oh, those helicopters that put the bushfires out and stuff, you know.
Just
Yeah,
run to the nearest,
yeah.
just run to the nearest payphone and just call up whoever's available. You
Yeah.
never know. It's New York City, for God's sake.
I want
Someone's
100,
open.
100 gallons of chocolate. Chocolate.
There are a lot of weird businesses
Hot
still
chocolate.
open late at night in New York City.
Yeah, I bet the Ghostbusters could.
You go to
call
Starbucks
order.
or somewhere and
Yeah.
get some hot chocolate, you know.
And where at the last minute will they be able to get all that before, in under a short time? They'll probably have to order it for months in advance.
Or get a lot of Boy Scouts and Girl Guides, and they can roast them over a fire. They always roast some marshmallows, aren't they?
Another
Yeah.
scene, as I recall, in the kitchen scene, you may have not have noticed this, but there's a steak puffs marshmallow bag in where Dana was just putting
I
the
missed
shopping
that.
away.
I
So
missed that.
there's a bit of a product placement in that. bit.
Yes. Yeah.
So you get to see that.
I wonder if
Going
they
back-
paid any money for that.
Going back
Yeah.
to Egon, he actually has one of the best lines in the movie as well, apart from Jean's line.
Okay, go on.
When it's actually a response to one of Jean's questions. Actually,
Oh, okay.
do
yeah,
you have
yeah,
any hobbies? I collect spasmos and fungus.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Well, you
but then
know,
again, he always collects mucus and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, the
I
second
think I
bit-
remember in another scene in Ghostbusters 2 where Egon
I was waiting
asked
for that.
Peter to collect some
fungus, yeah.
some form stuff from Oscar, and Peter says, business or personal?
Actually, in the second movie, we're not reviewing, but Egon actually, they're talking about different things and how this ectoplasm stuff reacts to different things.
Yeah.
And he said he's been sleeping with it. It's always a quiet one. Beckman
that's
said,
hilarious.
"Yeah." Weird.
Okay, so you okay?
We should.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for my chance.
Okay. Let it just.
All right,
and
Cass,
William can say
dive
something
in.
too. Yeah.
Oh, I'm just waiting for the opportunity to strike.
Now,
Okay.
you put in your cobra off now. Ah.
Or I'll strike now.
It's your moment now, Curtis.
The
Take the
wedding.
mic.
You need something to kick on to.
Okay. There's the other scene where let me see which one I lost track.
Yeah.
The train's off the tracks, folks.
I think when I look at the Ghostbusters 2, I liked it when Peter says, "I'm a voter, aren't you? Supposed to lie to me and kiss my butt?" In that scene.
No.
Yeah.
Well, this,
Oh,
Peter
that,
Venkman's got
oh,
some
you
pretty
were
funny
talking
ones.
the
I
mayor.
don't remember
Yeah,
any
Yeah.
Ghostbusters.
Well,
too.
the mayor's assistant.
well,
Anyway.
well, this is a great movie. So here's the thing: it is so hard. Like it's so hard to write a comedy movie
Yes.
Yeah.
because humor is completely subjective,
It is.
and you need to be able to sell in America because they don't really profit much from Chinese markets.
Yeah.
So one of the greatest examples was when it wasn't ad-libbed was when they were trying to get a mortgage to be able to afford the Ghostbusters offices.
Oh, yeah,
In
yeah.
the lead up to that.
Yeah.
That to me is a great example of how you should execute a joke in a comedy film. You explain what's going on, you make us things, and then you come up with the solution, and that's the punchline. And that solution was to get a mortgage.
We're going to sell your house or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, so like, I want to sell your house, and I thought that is a brilliant example that every kid who wants to be a comedian or a comedy writer should take away from this
no
film.
one laughed. It's like it's
Yeah.
serious. Like, oh, we don't raise money. You can sell your house, but. Well, yeah, my mother left it to me. Something like
Yeah.
it's so serious, but it wasn't
Yeah.
serious.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so good.
Yeah,
And
it's
that,
funny.
and that wasn't ad-libbed.
We'll sell your house.
Oh,
Yeah.
was that when they're buying the farm?
When
Fire
after
house?
their
Yeah, yeah.
businesses
They need some working
they're
capital.
after they got fired from their jobs, they
Yeah.
and Ray's all misery, the guts, and they decide to go to the bank and they get a second mortgage.
Over the house.
And,
Yes.
and he gets all upset saying, "My parents left me that house. I was born there."
Yes.
Yeah, but can I say something?
Go on, you say, Will.
I do think that Ghostbusters is one of the best written comedies of the 80s.
I
Yes.
think
Oh,
so.
yeah. No,
And
Definitely.
I want to talk
Hat
about.
off to
I
that.
want to talk about one scene. There's one scene that I really appreciated. It's that Jason called a hot set. There's a set where there's an earthquake and the street buckles up.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and,
That
all
was
the
cool.
road pieces kind of curve upward
Yeah.
and you can reset that. I mean
Yeah.
that's like the same type of sets that they use in the Universal Studios toys.
They did it in Indiana
Yeah,
Jones
yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do,
Yeah,
yeah.
In
Yeah.
the Last Crusade. Yeah.
I really like stuff like that. I love
Yeah.
practical sets and
Yeah.
effects
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
I think my favourite bit about this that opens the whole story up to, for me.
Open
Like
straight up
street.
too.
The
Yeah.
whole story. I mean, no, not before that. I mean, I think that when they introduced the scene where Ray and Peter and Egon were fired, there was that scene where Peter tells Ray, this is fate. We have been destined to leave the university and try to open business for ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's like speaking out to all independent filmmakers and other actors out there, telling them, go into business yourselves.
Exactly,
Do not
yeah.
just let the studios tell you, do this and be done. Just
Yeah.
do it yourself. Do not care
Go
about
forth and multiply.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
No, right. Yeah,
Especially,
think
yeah, I
it's
hear what you're saying there. In my experience, I travelled all around. Well, I didn't travel, but I searched all around Brisbane for a producer to help me produce my work, and there was just so many setbacks and so many, I'd love to do this, but I just didn't have the money, or I love to
Yeah.
do this, but I just don't have the
it
time.
seems
I
that
just,
everyone's like
yeah.
that.
Was
So-
that line meant to be like a 4-4 breaker, kind of like an outcry against the Ghostbusters team against the actual studio that was producing it? Or
Maybe it could.
it
It
could-
could be. It could have been ad-libbed, and
Well,
he was trying
actually,
to speak from experience.
it could have been
Yeah.
some commentary on the film industry.
Well,
at
they
the
were
time.
actually when they got the budget. They said the original budget was done at say 30 million, and then
Yeah.
somebody at the studio wanted to stop it. Said, "Don't go through with this. We'll lose money on it."
Yes.
So yeah, it could have been a poke at them.
Yeah.
Yeah, telling them, we're going to do this. So, well,
Yeah, blow
Back
it
off.
out, blow it
Blow
out,
up your eye.
blow it out
Bugger
your
off.
ear and stuff. We're going to do it. Yeah.
yes, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
could have been. Yeah, because I mean, the studios we're going to renege on the deal with the funding and everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're very lucky.
Yeah.
Extremely.
So we're lucky to be doing this.
Lucky,
this
otherwise you wouldn't be
one.
doing the review, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just before we came here, Will and I were watching a YouTube program called United Apart, and they did an episode on Ghostbusters where
Yeah.
they had all the cast and
Okay, yeah.
the creative team. I think it wasn't all the crew, but it was the creative team.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
reunited them all together, and they shared their memories and shooting the show,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
how I got the information on
Yeah.
Sigourney Weaver coming up with the idea of
Yeah.
being
The
a
dog,
dog.
yeah.
I also
Yeah.
showed
See-
Jason a very old episode of Angry, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I lost my train of thought now. I forgot where I was going.
That's
Ano-
right.
Another derailed train.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's all right. So,
Yeah.
let me see. What else have I found out about this? Oh, just before. I mean, the character of Winston was meant to have joined the team. Must have early on was going to be when he was going to be slimed at the hotel for one of the scenes, but Eddie Murphy. Well, as we said before, he went off to do Beverly Hills Cop, like Curtis said. So they had to reshoot all those scenes and try to probably make
didn't
out
know
that Bill Murray was going to get slimed instead of
Yeah.
Winston. So they had to do a bit of reshoots here and there.
Yeah.
That's a shame, really, when you think about it. I mean, I often thought it was weird that both movies, they showed Winston halfway through the movies.
You know what? I'm glad Eddie Murphy wasn't in it.
Oh,
No,
Yeah.
not being personal. He's too much of a big name. The other guys
Yeah.
weren't big names,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
think he would have taken over too much.
yeah, well,
Pretty
he's
big at the
well,
time, weren't they?
Yeah.
No, Eddie Murphy was big. He had a comedy special out.
You see, so he was more exposed to the media and stuff. Where
Yeah, he's
I
got
didn't
a lot
know
of hype.
too much about Bill Murray.
Well,
And
didn't they all know
Yeah.
each other on Saturday Night Live? Isn't that how they all got together?
yeah,
Pretty
but
much,
they knew
yeah.
each other, but they
Okay.
weren't. But Eddie Murphy was making movies and stuff back then as
Okay.
well,
Yeah.
so he was already known, where the other guys weren't as much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought he would have overshadowed them in the movie.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
It's good having more I would say unknowns, but lesser knowns.
Yeah.
together.
Also, the guy from Family Matters and what's his name? Oh yeah, and Die Hard, both Die Hard 1 and 2. An extra cop was in this who played in the those two movies. Also made appearance in the prison scene in this movie too, where he's you may not notice him, but I noticed him right away. I thought his face looked deadly familiar, and then it snapped into my head.
If you want to talk about crazy cameos, Ron Jeremy, the famous porn star, he plays an extra.
Plays his kiddies.
And slightly less crazy is I don't know for you younger listeners out there, Larry King. He makes an appearance.
He does.
Okay.
This was his debut film, and it was only in for like a few seconds.
Yeah.
There you go.
Talk about the Ghostbusters.
Very weird.
And then a few years later, he got his own talk show.
Yeah, that's right.
Cool.
There you go then.
That's impressive.
Yeah, I follow a guy on YouTube called Justin Scott, and he's a massive fan of these kind of movies. You know, Ghostbusters, Back to the Future, all those kind of movies.
Yeah.
And he's actually been to New York, and he did a video on where all the locations were for where they shot Ghostbusters, and he even showed us the old firehouse.
Oh, that reminds me, guys.
That firehouse existed.
Oh, by the way, guys, I just want to bring up the firehouse. They actually did. They used two different firehouses.
One in New York
and one in Los Angeles.
That's right. Yes,
Yeah.
I remember that. Anyway, the building that Dana lives in, that's actually on New York Street, like one of the streets in New York.
Yeah.
Apparently, the bottom half of the building is real.
Yeah.
But the top of it,
It's all matte painting.
It's all matte painting.
That's it, matte painting. Yeah, I was trying to work out what kind of effect they
it's
used
matte
for that.
painting. Yeah.
If you want to talk about recycling sets, the firehouse was actually briefly, a set used for the movie The Mask. It was the mechanic shop.
Really?
Wow.
It was converted. It was briefly converted into a mechanic to play this scene where the Mask loses his car.
Yeah.
You're very clever.
Oh, yeah.
I love it when they do that.
Well, that movie was exactly 10 years after this one, so yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the stars aligned.
That firehouse is still sits in New York even to this day, and apparently they've still got the Ghostbusters logo on it.
Yeah. Wow. Cool.
But I think they're looking to either. I think they're calling it redundant. Something's happening to it now.
Yeah.
What do you mean by redundant?
Means
not required anymore. Surplus to needs. They're going to bulldoze it probably.
So unless it gets
something's happening to it
so
now.
unless it's declared a landmark, then they can do whatever they want with it.
Remove it. I mean, it's a spiritual
I've learned a
landmark.
It's a mecca. You go there and you face an area, you bow and pray to it or something.
If it wasn't for Ghostbusters, it would have been just another abandoned firehouse.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, actually, it was. It was a decommissioned firehouse.
It was actually a firehouse. Yeah, it was actually a firehouse.
They put it on the
And
map.
honestly, the way it looked in the picture. When Justin Scott looked at it, it looked exactly the same. Like it still had the red doors and everything, exactly the same.
Yeah.
They didn't have the sign at the front, like the big Ghostbusters sign at the front, but it had like a logo painted in the concrete or chalked in the concrete or something like that.
There you go then.
Yeah. I often loved the Ghostbusters house. I mean, I thought
They should make it a restaurant or something, rather.
Yeah, or at least something.
Yeah.
Or even a shop to sell other Ghostbuster stuff.
Well, there are some good news. It was meant to come out this year, but because of the world burning, the director's son, his name is Ivan. His son's name is Jason. He's made a script for Afterlife, and if Ghostbusters Afterlife, when it comes out next year, does very well, there might be a resurgence.
Cool.
Like another trilogy.
Potentially, but we'll just see how much money
A
he makes
reboot
first.
might be a better name for it, maybe. Yeah.
Well, a reboot trilogy / sequel.
With the original cast.
But it depends what direction the film's going. Just watch the trailer, kids, and you can make up your own mind what will happen.
Another thing I like to bring up about this movie is that they also made this, not too long ago, a live-action video game using the original characters from Ghostbusters.
Well, it's a lot easier to get actors to do voiceover.
Yes, that was...
all except for Egon.
Egon,
He's long dead, but luckily I think they used some of his voice things.
Yeah, they can use that about other recordings.
Just record it from the
video.
That was 2009. That was it was for the Xbox, and it was great. It was a really good game.
Yeah,
definitely recommend it.
And Disney does that with the theme park shows. Like they take they take lines from their cartoon movies and
The Bugman,
and then they project it on the castle and everything. Yeah,
I just think
it's easily done.
I just think it's very detailed. The video game, it's like looking at a real digitalized picture of the actual characters they were back in the day when they first started.
It's just surprising that Nintendo did it first with Luigi's Mansion.
Luigi's Mansion? Okay.
Yeah.
I've heard of that game. You get
They've
the
got the
suck
plumbing
ghosts.
there?
Yeah,
or
exactly.
what?
Yeah, you get the suck ghosts out with the
My only
vacuum cleaner.
grudge against the game is that they don't change the character the person plays to female, male, maybe a different sex or different skin or different culture. Maybe it would be cool if they could do
actually,
that.
it's funny. Funny you said.
Speaking of that,
that's where a problem. They change too many things like that. I mean,
Yeah.
I often talk about James Bond. I mean, James Bond was supposed to be a Scottish naval commander, retired or transferred over to doing active duty. Now, that's fine, but not being racist, but I mean, you can't make him Chinese or Afro-American or a female. He's supposed to be a Scottish male Navy commander.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't change the role too much, otherwise it's not that role anymore.
You can change the number, but you can't change the
exactly.
James
So,
Bond name.
James Bond have to change to a different agent, so they can put it with Chinese or Afro-American or somebody in to
Unless this was
carry on the
a
role.
spin-off or something.
A spin-off,
But-
spin-offs.
But thankfully with Afterlife, I think because the son is doing it, he'll show a lot more respect than
Well, I hope so,
offense
yes.
the all-female cast version.
I was just gonna say, since we're on the topic of changing genders, let's quickly talk about the 2015 reboot and talk about what we think of the female.
I haven't seen it.
Oh,
Yeah,
you're not missing out.
I feel like I'll have to get around to watching it one day.
Yeah.
Or
You take out the politics, and it's not a great film.
I mean, I'm a girl,
Yeah.
as you guys clearly could hear from my voice.
And see from
And-
across the room.
Yes, and you see me on my social media, you may see that I'm not too impressed by it because, I mean, while the first one, I loved the story. I loved the fact that it was about some people going into business for themselves.
Yeah.
I just thought this one was the comedy was too controlled.
Yeah, that's
right.
the way. Yeah. Controlled. Yeah.
Like too much. Like they were probably writing the script and everyone's saying word for word what was said.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
everything.
They weren't natural.
well, it wasn't natural.
To me, it's a nothing movie. It's a nothing movie.
And I'd probably say it's probably quite clearly correct as well.
Yeah. And then it's supposed to be disrespectful and everything and really make you funny, but
it's kind of saying some
no.
nasty things. I mean, I don't object to feminism.
Yeah.
I like the right characters to suit a feminist movie. But, But I don't like it when they just change the gender, change the story around by and then making the women look silly.
I agree with you there, Sarah. Like when I first heard, the male Ghostbusters were being replaced by female Ghostbusters, I was like, really? Like I'm not being sexist or anything. I'm just like,
It sounds lazy.
yeah, it's just like
it's just
Ghostbusters have always been male. Like that's what we're used to.
but-
Feminism.
Now we've talked all about the femininity. Let's get to the story. The story is almost nearly the same.
almost. Look, the only redeeming qualities in it, for me, it had Hemsworth playing the secretary.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And he played a dumb blonde secretary
Yes.
male.
Yeah, the only
And he was really good at it. I have to say. Yeah.
And the
He
only
stole the show.
and the only half good line was when he covered his eyes instead of his ears, but that's a very basic joke to do.
Yes. Yeah.
And he's-
I also like the fact that they actually all the original cast in the movie except for Rick Moranis
had
all
cameos.
appeared.
Actually, that's one other thing. Had Ernie Hudson, they borrowed his dad's funeral car, his hearse, as the car, and they trashed the car. I need it for a funeral this afternoon.
Oh wait, so the original cast make an appearance in the 2016 film.
yeah.
Cameos,
they did.
yeah.
Okay, well,
They made cameos.
I think Bill
Well, it's
Murray's a
definitely
taxi
worth watching for that
driver
at
and
least,
stuff. And,
so,
Yeah, but it didn't save that film very much.
No, it didn't. No,
No,
Back
so
to-
when they want to, so they tried dragging over the
Original cast.
So which
original people to try and make it better, so the
Yeah.
original audience would come as well. And
A couple
So
of
what
seconds.
you're saying is that I shouldn't
Didn't
watch
work.
it.
you're not missing anything by not watching it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just that nothing beats the original. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I know.
Look, if you haven't seen the originals, it's not a bad watch.
Yeah.
If you've seen the originals, it's very disappointing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you want to rate this movie now, or do we have anything else to touch on this film?
I believe that without this film pretty much gave a voice to a lot of comedies that came out later, because it's very hard. It's almost impossible for comedies to make money. This made a lot.
Yeah.
About 10 times the budget.
Yeah. So it's helped, and also also proved that you can mix sci-fi with comedy, because up until then, all sci-fi would just stay in their lane. It didn't jump into comedy.
No.
Well, but then there was Back to the Future, and then there was Men in Black later on.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
As
I
well
mean,
as well as their sequels.
Yeah. So, so how do you guys rate this movie?
I would give this movie an 8.5 out of 10. This is a very strong, solid 1980s sci-fi comedy movie.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what do you think, Jason?
Out of 10 was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Always
think I'd
out of
definitely
10.
give it a 10.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ooh. Okay.
It's one of my favourite
Mike,
classic
what is your
movies, yeah.
thoughts?
Look, I'd have to be going towards up towards 9.5 to 10 as well, because you look at it, everything works.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any really, really grey areas in it. Everything comes together really good, and where they've ad-libbed and stuff, the ad-lib worked.
Yeah, it did. It worked together.
yeah.
It kind of flowed.
Apart from that dog scene running through the park, which looked animated, okay. But that's my. I'll give it 9.5 because the dog.
Okay. I would give it 10 out of 10 too. So.
And
what's-
Curtis?
So Curtis?
There is no Dana, only Zool. And
Oh,
I'm
yes.
gonna give it an 8.5. Because as I said before, it has its technical faults, but overall the acting's well done. The lines are well executed. Here's the thing: you can watch this film and do no research and have no idea that this ad-lib lines connect so freaking well. That's the great thing.
Yeah.
It's not as if you watch the film, you're like, oh,
Yeah.
you said that just because.
No, but it all fits.
It all fits, which is what makes it amazing.
They're natural.
You can't
Yeah.
you can't really get away with that stuff much
Actually-
anymore.
So hats off to this movie, guys.
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
had hats.
Oh,
That's all.
hair off, toupee? No. Now, what was I saying before
What
we go?
hair, Mike? You don't have any hair.
No, before we
except for on
go,
your face.
actually, there was Dan Aykroyd when he wrote the original idea for the script. He believed in this sort of stuff because I think his parents were into spiritualism type stuff. And
Yeah.
and his mother had seen spirits and whatever, and his father was trying to capture proof, and I think somebody else was. So it was all
Real
around him,
Ghostbusters.
and that's where he got his fascination from to make the script. And the original script was supposed to be set as time traveller type guys going through time. It was
Right.
going to be too cost prohibitive to make it based on his original script idea, so he had to rewrite the script, set it in
Okay.
New York, and he got Harold Ramis to come in there to tidy up the script because
Yeah.
Aykroyd was really good at the idea, but wasn't a very good scriptwriter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's where I was going with
yeah.
the United Apart story. Like they were saying in that episode that what was his name? Not Ivan. Egon. What's his real name?
Egon, Harold
Harold.
Ramis.
Harold. Yeah. Apparently Harold was very skeptic of ghosts in the supernatural.
Oh, probably, yeah.
But when he actually wrote the script, he was very cheeky about
But
it.
he's a good comedy writer. He's written
Yeah.
some other scripts. I can't remember what they were, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And he was ideal for this.
I'm happy
Yeah.
that when they do the Ghostbusters Legacy one,
Afterlife.
the Afterlife one,
yeah.
that I hope that story will have a little bit better impact than
Yeah.
the one that we did with the female.
I'm sure it will, because
If they get the right
it
feel
is
for it.
technically like if you go Ghostbusters 1, 2, it's definitely 3.
Yeah,
Like when they're not starting a new one. It's
Yeah,
going
well,
from the original
as I already
series,
discussed, this is it's being written by his son Jason Rittman, and
Yeah.
and his father did Ghostbusters, and his daughter is in the acting industry as well.
Wow.
So they're
Yeah.
from a very talented family, and I personally believe that it will do justice. At the moment on IMDb, it sits at 5.8. I believe it'll go up
Yeah.
Aha.
Ah.
Wait, what's this at 5.8?
on
The
IMDb.
rating.
For what?
Afterlife, didn't you?
Yeah, but it hasn't come out. It hasn't come out yet. Then why is there a rating for it?
I don't know.
On a synopsis, probably.
Synopsis, yeah.
About
I'll
what
probably go
synopsis?
by the trailer.
Just one more note before we finish. I think that it's very interesting. Long before Ghostbusters was even think of, there was already a Disney Ghostbusters short. Can we guess what it is?
What was that?
Lonesome Ghosts with
Never
Mickey
heard of it.
Mouse.
Ooh.
Have you ever thought of that? Because Mickey, Goofy, and Donald.
go to the
They're
house
the-
to get rid of the ghosts out of the house, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
and in the end they actually scared the ghost out because I think they're ghosts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They also had another
Funny, yeah.
Ghostbuster TV series way back, a black and white one. I'm not sure black and white. I mean, an older version of it that was back
Okay.
years
Four
ago.
Ghostbusters.
Yeah, where about two
It's called
men.
the Ghostbusters.
Yeah,
I think
the
it's called.
Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it had two old men and a gorilla.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
The
and
Ghostbusters.
they made it on. They made their own cartoon one, which
Yeah.
was probably happening at the same time when the real
Yeah, I
Ghostbuster
think they had
cartoon
trouble with
came.
the name, but they had to
place.
get permission to use it, didn't
Yeah.
they? Yeah.
In
Yeah,
a
it
post-apocalyptic
Oh, that
movie
you
theater.
you are talking about
we
that
reviewed
cartoon.
The
Yeah.
Ghostbusters.
Because yeah, I was just about to say, wasn't there another cartoon called Ghostbusters that was
Yeah.
nowhere near connected with the
No.
movie?
But
Yeah.
so one of the studios had, and this one was, which studios did this one?
I believe it was
Columbia?
yeah.
So Universal Studio had the rights to the name,
Yeah.
and
Ah.
Columbia was doing the movie, and they had to
Yeah.
get permission to use the name.
Right,
But
right.
one of the guys who transferred over from Universal to Columbia, he had a leg in the door, so they had to pay about $500,000 or $300,000 to use the name.
Yeah.
Wait,
I just remember watching that as a kid, and
Yeah.
my mum happened to walk in and see it one time, and I don't know, you saw these bunch of oh no, it was a plant. She saw these bunch of plants screaming or like going yeah or whatever. She took
Okay.
one look and she's like, "This is stupid. Why are you watching this?"
What, Ghostbusters?
Yeah,
No.
Ghostbusters cartoon.
Okay.
Oh, can't.
I don't even understand.
I do
why
remember
that
there was
happened.
it's not the Little Shop of Horrors with the singing
Oh,
plant.
that was an interesting
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
The original one, not the one with
Yeah.
Steve Martin in it. But
And also a Rick Moranis film.
Yes.
Oh, what a segue!
I was gonna-
if it ever gets covered.
Yeah, I was gonna watch Shop of Horrors at one point, but something happened to the DVD. I can't remember.
We've got to talk about Spaceballs sometime.
Oh, that'd be a
on
good
this
one to
channel.
review.
Well,
Yeah.
we'll look into that.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
like
Yeah, I
Spaceballs.
like
And look,
Spaceballs.
anything Mel Brooks touched to put
Yeah.
his finger on, pretty good. Yeah.
Seeing as it also falls under fantasy and sci-fi.
Sci-fi comedy, yeah.
We'll look into that
The,
eventually.
the whole movie's a piss take, but it's beautiful.
It
Yeah.
is, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly
So
right.
anyway,
Your rap.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
we're gonna wrap. So we'll look at doing the sequel to the sequel to this movie.
Ghostbusters 2.
Ghostbusters 2.
As well as.
Next time. So thanks for listening to this latest podcast, guys. I'll be sure to bring back Jason, Will, and Curtis for this.
And
great to
me,
be
and
back.
me, and me.
For this next podcast. So see you around, guys.
See ya.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Good to be back.
Take care. Look after yourself.
I'm out of here.